Okay, welcome again, our video friends. It's a wonderful day in the month of December. Hard to believe it's December, isn't it? My friends, how time just flies as we go through our lives. And they told me when I got older that time will go by faster, and it's so true. When you're young, you think it will never pass, and then as you get older, you can't imagine it going so fast. I'm sure some of you can appreciate my thoughts about that. How that life is that way. Well, we're studying today about Jacob and Laban now, and Jacob's making his break from Laban's camp and from his life and years with Laban, and and now right here, Laban, his brethren, had overtook Jacob and his wives and cattle. Verse 24, and God came to Laban the Syrian in a dream by night, and spake unto him, take heed that thou speak not to Jacob either good or bad. And so right here we see God intervening to protect Jacob, who was the head of the promised nation at this point. And God has got all kinds of ways of protecting his people and bringing his purposes to pass. And Jacob was a big part of the purpose of God in bringing forth this nation upon this earth. And so I think possibly Laban might have killed him. I don't know. It's not said. But we know this. Laban was mad at him. We know that. And there was probably going to be trouble, to say the least, between Laban and between Jacob when Laban called up with him. But God intervenes in a dream and tells him, take heed. Very important. Don't speak to Jacob either good or bad. And I think that God spake well to Laban, to where Laban realized that God understands that Jacob has been somewhat of a rascal, but did Laban have any room to speak? Not a word. So he just tells him, you don't say a good word or bad to him. You just do that. And so many times, probably beyond our knowledge to know it, God intervenes on our behalf, protecting us from things that would hurt or harm us or destroy us if he allowed it. And no doubt God has spoken to people and says, don't you touch that young man. Don't you touch that young lady. You just don't do this. And I could tell you various times in my life and a time or two within my children's life where I know that the Lord has intervened and did not allow them to be touched or harmed in different ways. I could tell you some of those things, but and then many times when we're needing something to happen in our lives, the Lord can touch somebody's heart and tell them, you do this, you help that person, and thus giving us what we need or what we desire. He is a great God and able to do exceedingly and abundantly above all that we ask or pray for. There are several things. I'm sure I keep God busy in my prayers, all that I ask for at times. But there are several things right now that I'm asking the Lord for. And one of them, I hope some of my viewers will help me pray. I've been trying for many years to get electric power upon my gospel signs up in a place in North Carolina where I have them. And it looks like that the whole universe is against me doing that. I have gone through red tape and setbacks and setbacks and setbacks, and I'm currently facing another setback with the county on the matter. And so I wish y'all would pray for me that the Lord would deal with these people and let me have electric power to my signs without having to give away my constitutional rights to get it. And so I know that the Lord is greatly able and that he can do this. And but for some reason I've had a great battle, first with Duke Power and now with Wilkes County permitting officials. Seem like they're just determined that they're not going to let that happen. And I'm so close to it happening. I've jumped every hurdle and I've done my best to do exactly as they have required. I'm not a lawbreaker or anything like that. But I would definitely appreciate you to pray for me in that matter that this could happen. And it's been a long battle. I can't believe it's been what it is. Neighbors have stood in the way of it, and it's just like everybody said, this ain't going to happen. But if you'll pray for me, I believe it will happen. And so it is right here. God has spoken to Laban, and Laban knows better than to harm Jacob at this point. And the Lord is telling him, don't speak good, either good or bad, to Jacob. And verse 25, then Laban overtook Jacob. Now Jacob had pitched his tent in the mount, and Laban with his brethren pitched in the mount of Gilead. And Laban said to Jacob, what hast thou done, that thou hast stolen away unawares to me, and carried away my daughters as captives, taken with the sword? Wherefore didst thou flee away secretly, and steal away from me, and didst not tell me, that I might have sent thee away with mirth, and with songs, with tabret, and with harp? And hast not suffered me to kiss my sons and my daughters, that thou hast now done foolishly in so doing. So Laban's got a hurt heart right here. Verse 29, he said, it is in the power of my hand to do you hurt. But the God of your father spake to me yesternight, saying, take thou heed that thou speak not to Jacob either good or bad. And so Laban's still mad about this. He's hurt. He had a good thing going for him as long as Jacob was there, and he was being blessed with it. And verse 30, and now, though thou would needs be gone, because thou sore longest after thy father's house, yet wherefore hast thou stolen my gods? And so Laban's saying, we understand you want to go back to your father, and God is in favor of that. He said, but then you stole my gods to go with it. And could you imagine that? And I'd like for somebody to ask Laban what he's doing with all them gods. We should worship the one true and the living God, and not these images that were stolen from Laban. Mm-hmm. And verse 31, you would think after God had spoken to Laban in a dream, enough to where he knew that God had spoken to him, that he would forget those stupid idols. But here he is bringing the matter up before Jacob. Where's my images? Where's my gods? Had it bad, didn't he? He was pretty badly confused. Verse 31, and Jacob answered and said to Laban, because I was afraid, for I said, peradventure thou wilt take by force thy daughters from me. So here's Jacob's excuse for doing what he did. With whomsoever thou findest thy gods, let him not live. Before our brethren discern thou what is thine with me, and take it to thee. For Jacob knew not that Rachel had stolen them. Well, there's a lot going on in this family, wasn't there? I mean, there was a lot went on in this family right here. A whole lot between Jacob and Laban, between Rachel, between Leah, between their handmaids, and then we're going to see goings on between their children before it's all said and done in the scriptures. And so there's a lot happens right here that they don't tell one the other. And so sometimes they had their own days of our life going on. And sometimes I say that about my family when they have ins and outs of one the other. So, well, we've got the days of our lives going on. That's a reference to a title of an old soap opera back in the 60s. I heard that quoted before. And so right here, in verse 33, and Laban went into Jacob's tent, and into Leah's tent, and to the two handmaids' servants' tents, but he found them not. Then went he out of Leah's tent and entered into Rachel's tent. Well, it's getting close here, isn't it? But wait a minute. Mama Rachel ain't through with her tricks yet. You're going to see her pull one more here before the day is over with. Now, Rachel had taken the images and put them in the camel's furniture and sat upon them. And Laban searched all the tent, but found them not. And she said to her father, let it not displease my lord that I cannot rise up before thee, for the custom of women is upon me. And he searched, but found not the images. Well, this Rachel, she was pretty slick herself, wasn't she? I bet we wonder where she got that. Daddy Laban, you reckon? Husband Jacob, sister Leah. Yeah, well, they say that, you kind of become like those you run around with, And I guess she didn't have much choice but to learn some of their ways to survive herself. We'll give her a little bit of the doubt here. But she had a few cards to play right here. Don't count these women short either, guys. But anyhow, verse 36, and Jacob was wroth, and chode with Laban, and Jacob answered and said to Laban, what is my trespass, what is my sin, that thou hast so hotly pursued after me? Whereas thou searched all my stuff, almost, so he thought. What hast thou found of all thy husband's stuff, of the household stuff? Set it here before my brethren, that they may judge betwixt us both. What about this? So Jacob, he's flaring his temper now. He says, hey, you didn't find this, we didn't take it. He doesn't know that Rachel did take it. And he is coming back at Laban right here. Verse 38, he goes again with his words. This 20 years have I been with thee, thy ewes and thy she-goats have not cast their young, and the rams of the flock have I not eaten. That which was torn of beast I brought not unto thee, I bear the loss of it. Of my hand didst thou require it, whether stolen by day or stolen by night. Thus I was in the day the drought consumed me, and the frost by night, and my sleep departed from mine eyes. Jacob's telling him his side of the story now. And he said, it's been a rough road for me these 20 years, and it's not been as easy as you think. And you've been blessed because of it, and I've suffered the loss because of it. And he said, I've been cold in the night where I couldn't sleep. And verse 41, thus have I been 20 years in thy house. I served thee 14 years for thy 2 daughters, and 6 years for thy cattle, and thou hast changed my wages 10 times. That's a lot of times to change it, ain't it? God was blessing him so good, Laban kept adjusting the wages until Jacob's began to think, I'm never getting ahead like this. And I have worked for people about like old Laban myself and wanted to keep getting more out of him for the same price. I have suffered that myself probably 10 times at least. Never any fun when you're just not really able to make what you would need to make to take care of your family, what you'd love to make to take care of your family, and when somebody's wanting more and more out of you for less and less to give you. And I just don't really appreciate people like that myself, so I've had to work for some of them. And I appreciate the people who've been fair and just with me and gracious with me. Certainly I appreciate them and their kindness, and I pray God's blessings upon that kind of people. But right here, and then Jacob goes on to say, except the God of my father, the God of Abraham, and the fear of Isaac had been with me, surely thou hast sent me away now empty. God hath seen my affliction and the labor of my hands, and rebuked thee yesternight. Mm-hmm. And so Jacob's grabbing right a hold of Laban's words and reminding him of what he had done to him. Mm-hmm. And so he said, hadn't been for God, you'd have sent me away with nothing. And verse 43, and Laban answered and said to Jacob, these daughters are my daughters, and these children are my children, and these cattle are my cattle, and all that thou seest is mine. And what can I do this day unto these my daughters, or unto their children, which they have borne? Now therefore come thou, let us make a covenant, I and thou, and let it be for a witness between me and thee. And Jacob took a stone and set it up for a pillar. And Jacob said unto his brethren, gather stones. And they took stones and made a heap, and they did eat there upon the heap. And Laban called it Jergah-Udatha, but Jacob called it Galeed. And Laban said, this heap is a witness between me and thee this day. Therefore was the name of it called Gilead. And Mizpah, for he said, the Lord watch between me and thee when we are absent one from another. And we're just about out of time, but that's a famous statement right here that I've heard many times. The Lord watch between me and thee when we're absent one from another. And that's a good thing to say when loved ones are apart and when we can't see or be with our loved ones as we'd love to be. The Lord watched between me and thee, and while we were apart. And so thankfully Jacob and Laban had a part in the end that was actually a very good parting, and a very good way to look at things in life, and a very good way an attitude to have. The Lord watched between me and thee while we're absent, one from another. And so, it's a good thing to apply in our lives and to remember when we have to part from loved ones, to remember about Jacob and Laban and a place called Mizpah where they had the agreement and made the vow together. May God bless us.